And welcome to another edition of South Texas Crossfire. This is Attorney Joe Flores reminding you to join us each and every week right here on KTMV with the Lopez family. Special thanks to Carlos Lopez. You guessed it, the Ted Turner of South Texas Broadcasting. I have the honor of bringing on someone who is somebody I look up to and their family. And what I'm going to be talking about is somebody that we all honor and we all respect, and I would not be here, and many of us wouldn't be here, but for his efforts, and that's Dr. Hector P. Garcia, and his lovely daughter's on, along with Mr. Akers, and we're going to be talking about the Memorial Foundation that is so vital, so important, and we're going to be talking about Dr. Hector's work. Good morning. How are you all?
Good morning. I am so glad to be here. Thank you.
Oh yeah, and it's a little bit. Yeah, it's that weather is. I'm glad you guys could make it. We just got in a front, but I wanted to first jump in there and say that we've got an event coming up, and everybody out there in TV land, mark your calendar, and that is in January. Remind me, I think that is January 17th, 2014 coming up.
Yes, exactly. It'll be my father's 100th birthday celebration.
Oh, wow. He would have been
100 years old.
And it brings to mind something you said before we started the interview, that when people ask you about immigration and what your take on it is, what is your response?
I say, look at my father. He was an immigrant. He immigrated here when he was 3 years old and lived his whole life in Texas.
A lot of people, especially people born after 1975, 1980, the generation that's coming after me, they need to be educated on your father. Tell us a little bit about your father, because it's not only what he did for the community, but I guess what he did for a whole race.
He did. We always say that he thought he was here for a reason. And because just the way he lived his life and pushing forward, and all the things he accomplished affected all the minorities in this country to help them. And education was a key thing for him. Healthcare was a key thing. Veterans' rights, and he just lived his life to help others. And I think he's a perfect role model for our young people to know about him and to admire him and to follow in his footsteps, because we need good leaders today.
Well, and Ronald Reagan gave him, I think, the highest honor we can give in the land.
Yes, in 1984, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, March 26, 1984.
And so going back, you growing up with Dr. Hector, can you share a little bit about what that was like?
Well, he was a funny guy. I mean, he could be a lot of fun, but he was quite serious. And education was, we had to be educated, and we had to make good grades. And I think that I did the best I could, but I think also I feel that it was never good enough for him at times. I feel that. And he loved to shower us with gifts, and he liked to take care of us and take us out to eat and buy us ice cream. And he was a regular dad. He could make the events, played basketball. He tried to be there, piano recitals. He tried to be there, but he was so busy that we lost a lot of our time growing up with him.
And he was, in fact, at one point, he believed so strongly in things. I remember one attorney I talked to that remembered him vividly, Amador Garcia. I interviewed him about 8 years ago about Dr. Hector, and he remembers that he had the courage to go to jail for his beliefs.
He did. He went to jail on the school desegregation case, and they had to sit in there at the school district. And I guess they told him to leave, and then they wouldn't leave, and they arrested him, and they put him in jail. My father and I think about 4 or 5 other young Latinos. And then he calls my mother at the house and tells her, I'm in jail. And so she freaked out. She goes, you're in jail? What are you doing in jail? And he thought it was funny. And so then, of course, the press found out, and they told him he could leave. And he said, I'm not going anywhere, I'm staying. And they wanted to get him out, but he wouldn't leave.
Well, and that, for civil rights, like you said, for Mexican Americans, I guess this is the cradle of a lot of civil rights movements, and with him with GI Forum and everything he did for Mexican Americans. Now, a lot of people are probably wondering, who's the handsome man next to you?
This is my sidekick
There you go. And,
for over 35 years.
and VP. He's the vice
Yes,
president
the
of the
vice president of
foundation.
the foundation.
She let me be an officer of the foundation. but we've been married for 35 years, and you know, I have a great remembrance of Dr. Hector, and you know, he wasn't too thrilled about us getting married, but I don't think he would have been too thrilled about anyone taking his little daughter away from home.
Oh, I know how that is. I'm a father.
You know how that works. But you know, we learned to love each other a lot, and he was really a lot of fun. We used to play dominoes. He loved to play dominoes, and he was very intense when he did. I mean, he hated to lose. And I guess that's part of the drive that he had to do everything he did, because he wasn't going to lose. He didn't lose very often. And, you know, we sat and we watched football games on the weekend when he was able to be at home, and he loved to watch the Dallas Cowboys and the San Antonio Spurs, and obviously he liked to watch University of Texas play football because he graduated from there. But that was part of his regular home life. He did enjoy that. He did make time to do that on the weekends when we were there. Earlier, Cecelia was talking about her regular father when we would come down to visit. If he was at home when we got to the house, one of the first things he would do is he would take her by the arm and take her in the back room back there and give her $20. Says, "Here, take this. Don't tell Jimmy I gave this to you."
So I said, "Okay, Papa, I won't tell him."
That was his $20 gift to his daughter.
Oh, and I have the honor of remembering him and Eco making rounds at the hospital.
Right.
They used to go to Memorial,
Yes,
and make rounds there.
Yes.
And in fact, one of the clinics there is named after him.
right.
That's correct.
It was the indigent care clinic that they named after him. Right before he passed away, they did that.
Yes, and the library, I was at, right before they made it A&M Corpus, I was there when dinosaurs walked the earth at Corpus Christi State, and they devoted a library.
The library.
Yes.
And this is speaking of library. All the proceeds that we receive from this event will be donated to A&M for a library wing expansion that will be named after my father.
And on that date, January 17th, it gives us plenty of time. It's going to be
Right.
there at the Omni.
It's going to be at the Omni, yes.
Between 11 and 1:30.
1:30, yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to get out the word here, and you don't have to be a millionaire to go.
No.
That's not the way your dad would have wanted it.
No. We have
He probably would have given the 20 for somebody to go and buy a plate.
He would have. We have individually priced tickets for $75, and then different tiers of sponsorship levels. So.
And we can go online, Dr. Hector Garcia Foundation.org.
.org.
And we're going to have it on there, Dr. Hector, and I think it's P. Garcia, forgive me, Dr. Hector P. Garcia Foundation.org, and then we'll have the other information on there. We also, thank you for the PowerPoint. As we're talking, images are kind of flooding the screen there.
Great.
And that way people, and I don't want, even on Facebook, I don't want people to forget. I remember my dad had a picture that said, "No dogs or Mexicans allowed in this restaurant."
Right.
And this was in the 60s, a few years before I was born in Alice, Texas. And this was very real, where it was it was a terrible time. And people, I guess I've been called in the carpet a couple of times where people will say, well, you know, that's over. We need to get past this us and them thing. And you guys are a shining example of that. I mean, if I hadn't married my wife, I would have married a Canadian woman. I would have been like Ted Cruz kind of deal.
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to marry my wife. I was going to marry a Canadian, so, you know, and my wife will chop off my head for saying that. But then I met her and wisened up. But, you know, it's who you love. But it's not about us and them. It's about equality. Among everybody.
Right. And we think all those terrible days are over, but they're really not.
And tell me a little bit about that, because people need to understand. It can't just come from me.
Well, right, exactly. If you look at voter ID, I mean, there's a reason why all that was done. Arizona is a prime example of where not to go, you know, and to prove your citizenship. I mean, I don't know how you would do that. You know, if you get stopped and put into jail, and then all these immigrants, that what are we going to do with all these people that are here? You just can't arrest everybody and throw them in jail. You just can't deport everyone. I mean, there has to be a way to help these people stay here. laws need to be implemented and they need to be followed as to what are we going to do, and there's no direct plan on how to help people. And I'm sure if my father were here, he would be in the middle of that fight.
Sure he
And
would
you know,
It's not about race. I had
It's
Judge
not.
Sandra Watts on,
Uh-huh.
and we played her all last week, and we're going to be playing her. And a district judge goes in, and they were asking for a second ID to confirm who she was. And this is a
Right.
district judge that lives in that courthouse. And she said, well, what if I couldn't produce it? Well, you'd get a provisional ballot. Well, good luck with that. Within 7 days coming with an ID or going to DPS, people in nursing homes, people from rural areas,
Right.
it suppresses the poor
it suppresses
vote.
the vote. And that's why they made it.
I mean,
Exactly.
really and truly, that's why they made it.
That's my opinion.
Of course it is.
And mine too, you know, and we've brought that out. So this foundation, what does it do for young people? I mean, I need to, you know, try to connect between my generation and this coming generation that watches this show and everybody in between. How do we connect everybody from Dr. Hector to the 20-year-olds out there?
We are, first of all, we are pushing him as an example, as a role model for young people, and to relive the life that he lived, know his history, look what his struggles were, the struggles in the military. How many veterans are coming back? They can't get health care, they can't get jobs, they can't get money, they can't be taken care of. There's no VA hospital for the people in the valley to go to. They have to go all the way to San Antonio. There's so many issues that he touched on in his life that are still there. And we give money to educational institutions for scholarships. We just gave one to Incarnate Word Academy in September, $10,000. So we are working directly with funding for colleges and universities that will support his name, and we are donating money to them.
Well, and you and your husband, Mr. Akers, what initiatives are you doing to get the word out? Because I'm trying to get it out on TV here, but how else?
We have our website, and
Good.
there's a lot of information on there about my father, pages and pages. There is an oral interview with him that was dated 1984, and the Mexican American Experience is 22 minutes, and he talks directly. You hear his voice, not mine, it's not printed, but in his voice he talks about his movement, why he did what he did, what he saw when he came back from the war, how veterans were treated, how Mexicans were treated, how the state deliberately kept Mexicans back, and so he filed federal cases to win, to get segregation
he
over.
could have lived a comfortable life, and so could you in Europe.
Right.
Right?
In Europe.
I mean,
exactly.
tell me about why could he have lived? I've heard this. Like, he could have taken door number one, like, let's make a deal, right?
Exactly.
And lived in Europe, and you guys probably wouldn't have met, or you would have been French. You know, Monsieur Akers, right?
Probably so.
Monsieur
Probably
Akers,
so.
but y'all could have lived in Europe and
Right.
lived the life of
Right.
Riley, and
Right.
just, you know, and so he could have taken the easy
He
way
could
out.
have. You know, he had just finished the military in 1945, and he met my mother there in Italy and married her there. And they got married there in a church in Naples, and her family wanted him to stay there and practice medicine.
Romantic, huh?
Yeah, stay in Italy and practice medicine here. He already had a Texas license. He was chief of surgery in the Army. You know, he was well educated, well trained, and he told him, "No, I have a mission back in Texas. I have to go back."
And brought your lovely mom.
A year later.
Oh, wow.
It took her a year to get her papers and to get transported over here.
You know, people have asked us several times how we think Dr. Hector would want to be remembered. And if someone would watch Justice for My People, and the very end of that CD, there's an interview there that his niece, Yolette Garcia, Dr. Hico's daughter, was interviewing him. And she asked him about being a hero, and he chuckled in his nice little voice, and he says, heroes are needed in the country, but he says, I don't consider myself a hero. He says, I consider myself a servant of the people. He says, that's what I want to be remembered as a servant for my people.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming here. It's been an honor
Well, thank
to
you
visit.
for having us.
I hope that we can get some excerpts, maybe from the PowerPoint and maybe from the video, play a little bit of it. That'd be wonderful. If we
Right.
can pull it off the website.
You can, yeah. It's
Yeah.
a very good. It's very telling.
Well, it's Dr. Hector P, Garcia Foundation.org. Get on your handheld phone, learn more about it. Everybody's going now just to getting on their iPhone
Exactly.
and opening it up. And with your phone right there, sitting in front of this TV, you can get on there right now and learn more and educate your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. I'm meeting 50-year-old great-grandmothers nowadays, you know. And I always just say, it's okay to have big families. Just make them all go to college, please. So education is indeed our freedom. We
Education.
always say that.
Mm-hmm.
So Cecelia Akers,
Thank you.
Garcia,
Thank you so
también.
much. Gracias.
And Mr. Akers,
Jim
thank
Akers.
you
Jim,
so much.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Akers.
Thank you for
and
having
for
us.
Steve Arnold, who's not here as treasurer, he has been a great help also
Very
in this
much
foundation.
So. Very much so.
So visit the website. The information is coming up in front of you there, and learn more. And maybe we'll see you out there, please, January 17th, 2014 at the Omni. Thank you, and God bless.